Welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Draves,
And I'm Case.
and coming to you in issue 44, we're going to do a bit of a holiday roundup with The King's Man, Witcher Season 2, Hawkeye, Matrix, and maybe some stuff we've seen even before this. So,
Wait,
Case.
did you say that? Is it called the King Man? Wait, what's King's Man?
Yeah, it's a prequel to the other Kingsman movies.
So it's not King's Men, it's King's Man.
Yeah, it's called The King's Man.
This just seems hard to say for some reason. It's like one of those words that you just always assume is always plural, even if there's only one person. I don't know why.
Well, seeing as how's our first topic, let's just chat about it real quick.
All right, you saw it. I
Uh,
didn't. You said it's the best movie ever.
It is my favorite movie from the holidays.
Favorite movie
It was
from the holidays?
fun. Yeah. This holiday we had a lot of stuff come out, and out of everything I saw, this is the one I enjoyed the most. I just felt like I had a lot of fun seeing it. It didn't take itself too seriously. I laughed. It was also there's like some emotional moments in it too, and in some ways, it also like kind of like really brought out the terror of fighting in war and all of those things. And it's funny. You'll see war depicted in like a lot of movies
A lot of
and things
movies.
like that. And this is one of the very few movies that just from the perspective of an individual going and fighting in a war, wow, this is terrifying. The things you must see.
But
And it was just strange that it was like what is kind of a satire movie in some ways that kind of made me realize that. And it wasn't just me who says this, by the way. I went to go see it with a relative of mine, and he kind of said the same thing. And I don't just thought that was interesting. If you like the Kingsman franchise, you should go see it. If you didn't like those movies, I don't think you would like this one. You'd probably be best served watching something else. But if you haven't seen the other Kingsman movies, I don't think, if you have some time around the holidays, and let's face it, thanks to Delta, Omicron, or whatever letter of the Greek alphabet will be on soon, you'll probably have a little bit of time at home. I've always thought they were fun, and especially if you like the old school James Bond movies, watching like sort of like this film series that's a bit of a parody of that is just a lot of fun in general. And I've always enjoyed them.
I
Yeah.
definitely wanted to see this. I didn't. The way I'm coming to King's Man was I enjoyed the first one. As you said, it's kind of. I mean, it's not a satire, but it is like an overtop version of James Bond, right? It's taking it to the next level of comedy. The second one, I just didn't enjoy that much. So I don't know. I also like World War II movies, so I was pretty excited to check it out. I just haven't. Because I can't go to theaters unless I rent the whole theater out. So I have not been able to see it yet. I don't know if it's streaming.
Yeah, I would say this. They don't have it streaming, which is the one thing I would say is that the casting in this movie was really pretty great. You had Ray Fiennes, who is sort of the founder of the Kingsmen. You have Gemma Arterton, who is sort of plays this great sort of spy role in the movie. Just generally, I think they did a great job with the casting, and like I say, it was fun.
It was fun.
It was fun. That's I probably said that word about 12 times in sort of like describing this movie to people, but that's really the dominant thing that sort of like that stands out. There are movies that and we're gonna talk about one pretty soon. That you go to the theater, you watch a movie, and you're like, okay, I don't really want to see that again. I really want to see the Kingsman again. And some of the fight sequences were fantastic, and were probably the best fight sequences in the history of the franchise.
Well,
And
I don't
I
even know.
just
I don't know. I don't remember any fight sequences from the franchise really. More gadget stuff than anything else. But I guess there was that the guy with the lasso, well, it wasn't a lasso. It was a cowboy thing. I guess it's a lasso. What's it called when they catch cattle? A bullwhip? Is that what he had? He had something in the second one that was electrified. But
I think it
otherwise,
was Lasso.
maybe it is a lasso. I don't know. But yeah, I don't remember the fight scenes. I just remember the overallness. But it's cool that it's rare for me to have a movie anymore that I want to see twice because time has changed as I age into oblivion. And so it's cool that there's a movie that's at least inspired you to see it twice. Like I said, I want to really see it. It's also in a time period that I tend to enjoy movies from. So it's on my list. Whenever it comes out, I'll stream it, and I'll tell you if it's the best movie of 2022.
But it came out in 2021.
Does it matter when it comes out or when I actually see it? It'd be the best streamed
I
movie of 2022.
Yeah. Well, you can put it in whatever year you want, but I think it's worth seeing, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. If not, at least give the franchise a chance. But good
No,
movie.
it's a good franchise.
Go see it.
I, I mean, I'm not upset about the second movie, the sequel. It just didn't. It wasn't as like amazing as the first one. I think is the only reason I didn't like it. And the fact they brought someone back by pulling a bullet out of their brain, and then there's a special word that he had to remember or something, so he gained his memories back. It just
Like I
was.
say, I don't think the franchise takes itself very seriously or
It was just
very
really.
realistic. I
You
think
don't have to be realistic. There's laws with that you live in within your movie. Like we watch superhero movies, so it's not like it has to be realistic. It was just a dumb way to bring someone back. I thought that they could heal like if you can heal bullet wounds in the brain, no one should ever die in that franchise from that point on.
maybe not.
What? That- Oh, I'm sorry. Getting shot in the arm killed you. If you got
What if you
shot
don't
in the
recover the
brain, you'd
body?
been fine. Was that?
What if you don't recover the body?
Sure. From now on, they have to shoot you in the brain, then put you in cement, and then push you into the ocean. I feel like that's how they killed a vampire in some movie, by the way, or a book I read. Like he was traveling from to the new world in his coffin, and they chained it up and threw it at the bottom of the ocean, and then the
Are
movie
you talking
turned.
about? I think they tried that in The Strain.
Maybe that's what it was. I can't remember what it was. Some way that it also might be how we live in shadows. Like the big evil guy was stuck down there, and then
Oh yeah.
something like that. I can't
Oh,
remember.
I love that show.
Was it the best show of 20? But yeah, so I don't know. I just didn't like that style. I mean, the rest of the movie. I mean, the rest of the movie had some weird issues too, but that part kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. But again, it's a fun franchise. It's an enjoyable franchise. It's like a pulp book. Like you're not gonna read it. Maybe this new one you said has some death, but like you don't read it for like you're not reading Dune, right? Or some big learning some meta statement about society. It's more like you go in with some popcorn and you enjoy your time.
For sure. So I guess if we switch gears now and we went into sort of like something that I saw on streaming that I really enjoyed. Case, have you seen this yet?
No, so
The Witcher season 2?
I have not seen any Witcher because I have a hate-love relationship with Witcher, I guess. So I just never jumped onto it as a TV show to watch.
I see. Well, this is probably my favorite thing that's ever been on Netflix. Um,
Did you watch Don't
I
Look Up?
I really.
Wow, you ignored my question.
Oh, what did you say?
So did you watch Don't Look Up yet?
No, I haven't.
Did you watch Bo Burnham's Inside yet?
I
'Cause-
have.
'cause I think that's probably my favorite thing that's been on Netflix this year.
So
Anyhow, go ahead. Witcher.
Witcher, yeah, Witcher season 2
I heard it's
was
in sequence this time.
more or less. I would say that it is better than season 1. This is very much a more Game of Thrones like season from The Witcher. Like more political stuff, more sort of like things that span multiple kingdoms, more betrayals, more sort of like some brutality.
Finish
And
him.
so it was really good. I started reading the books recently and really enjoyed, from what I can tell, at least so far, how they've even sort of worked the short stories in to all of this, and I think they've done a really really good job. I sort of not going into spoilers, which we generally don't do. We generally are pretty liberal with spoilers on the podcast, but seeing as how Case hasn't seen it yet,
But will I ever see it? That's the question.
yes, you should.
Will I
Uh,
ever see it? It's the question.
if you honestly, I've enjoyed Witcher more than I've enjoyed Game of Thrones. I've especially enjoyed the Witcher books way more than I enjoyed the Game of Thrones books, partially because I think the George R.R. Martin books are just too hard to read at some level. Like it feels like work for some reason. To me, I understand why other people enjoy them. I know a lot of people who read them love them. They're their favorite books, but to me, they always rang like you kind of have to work at them a little bit. And the Witcher books just seem really, really just fun to read.
What was
Uh,
first, The Witcher books or The Witcher video game?
the Witcher books.
See, I was unaware of that. So my whole
Y-
notion of The Witcher is the video games.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've never read any books or anything like that. And the first two video games were okay. And then the third one is the one I got into, right? And kind of got into more stuff about it.
No, the third one is considered by many to be one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah, I ran into what I usually run into in those type of games is that whole open world, and I just like stepped away for like a week or something, and then I was like, oh, okay, I forget what I was doing, and then so I just played a different video game, right? And I was like, I don't want to start over. I forgot the whole story, and that's my love hate part of it. It's just like I played every one of the games, but never finished any of them. But yeah, continue. The books are good, better than George R. R. Martin, you believe. Season 2. What makes season 2 great?
What makes season 2 great? Well, I think, like I say, it is a more Game of Thrones like season. You get to see more of like the world
So what the
in a
more
sense of
world
that.
building.
Yeah, I'd say that's right. More of like the political implications of things that have happened. There's more sort of there's a much more sense of like scale in the world. Like season 1 was very much about Geralt and Yennefer and Ciri and like sort of like how their bonds get formed, and this is more of like how those bonds are tested, I think, across larger political events that are going on. And I had a really great time watching it, and I think it has gotten. I've never played Witcher 3, and so like now I really want to. I want to like finish the books and then go play all the games again. But at the very least, play Witcher 3.
Yeah, I recommend not to play
Um,
every game again. I definitely just go with Witcher 3. Start there. You won't be lost.
Yeah. I wish that they would port Witcher 1 and 2 to Switch or some one of the modern systems. I'm surprised it doesn't run on Xbox actually.
It might.
They might. So I should look into that, but like at
Or
the
you can just
very
buy
least
a
I should play
gaming
Witcher 3.
PC and join the new world.
I mean, I'm sure I could just run them on my Mac. I don't think they're very sophisticated games. And so I think that we could probably wrap up Witcher here just by saying probably the Witcher series is probably my favorite thing that's ever been on Netflix. And if you have any inclination towards Game of Thrones, fantasy, whatever, go watch Witcher season 1 or read the books or whatever, but somehow try to find some way to get exposed to the Witcher franchise a little bit, even if that means playing the games. Anything to add there, Case, before we
Oh,
move
well,
on?
I'm just gonna follow up since like if again I mentioned Bo Durham's Inside. I don't know if you liked it, but to me it was a piece of art that everyone should watch. And if people don't know who Bo
Okay.
Durham was, he like became famous stand-up comedian like in 2009ish,
Yeah.
and then basically left the whole world because of like personal reasons. And then he just showed up on Netflix with this, like he did some movies, and like wrote stops and screenplays. And he showed up on Netflix with a special comedy where he locked himself in a one room building or something. I think it was one room. It might have been two rooms in the kitchen, right? It just like, that was where he had to build a Netflix special from scratch. And it was just basically him going crazy for like 8 months or whatever, trying to figure out how to write this comedy, but it's kind of epic and has one of the greatest songs ever, with his about Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
But I would recommend
Um,
that.
uh, so we have Hawkeye actually next on the list here to chat about. But before we chat about Hawkeye, I
Yes.
think we should maybe talk about what has been kind of like a darker period in the MCU in terms of film quality.
Well, I don't know
Um,
if dark. Is it anything been as bad as Thor: The Dark World?
no, but like we've also never seen multiple movies in a row that I think missed.
Well, I see. I think I disagree. See, I liked the Ten Rings.
Shang-Chi is good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
So
I was.
Shang-Chi
Go ahead.
Shang-Chi was okay. Like it was good. It's a good movie. I would watch it again. Like I think it just didn't sort of like elevate the MCU for me. It just felt like a solid movie that was kind of in the franchise.
Well, it didn't explore. It didn't add more to the world. So, again, you like world building, apparently.
Maybe, but I kind of walked away thinking, they probably could have done a little bit better here. However,
You did not like Black Widow.
I didn't like Black Widow. I didn't like the Eternals.
I would
And
think
if we could
most
take a
people didn't
second,
like the Eternals. So
I mean, it is arguably the worst movie in the MCU.
it might be the
Uh,
best shot movie in the MCU, though.
oh, I mean, yeah. Look, it's beautifully shot. It's just that there's just weird things in it that just
Well, I don't think it's the weird things. I think it's not like the concept behind the internals was the problem. I just think it just they had like parts of that story. Like there's I think I said this when we saw it. It was like there was like a 2 hour and 45 minute movie that you could have cut out an hour of it and it would have been faster, have more beats, and you wouldn't have this like dry spell of why are these people even having sex on screen? Like we don't like it's like
Okay, let's just talk about that for a second, because look, I have no problem with scenes like that in
it
movies.
just
Like
felt out
I'm
of
pretty
place.
much it was just it was there for no real reason that I could discern,
Yeah.
and it was not tonally consistent with the rest of the MCU. Uh,
I don't. Yeah, the tone I
this
don't mind. It's
movie,
just if it would have felt more part of the movie, it wouldn't have been a big deal. It was just
yeah,
like
but it
in the middle of
didn't.
this movie, all of a sudden it's like like you could have an R-rated MCU movie that's violent, like with Punisher and something, and it wouldn't be tonal the same as the rest of the MCU, and that wouldn't be a big deal if it's a good movie. This one is like we're talking about these Eternals will live forever, and now look, we want to slowly show you this love scene, but we're gonna add in sex because that's the only way we know how to describe that the relationship became more than just friends. I'm like, it just felt so out of place.
It was not great.
And I feel like there's a lot of those scenes in this movie where it's just like all of a sudden it turns this corner and you're like, wait, what's happening?
The movies, Eternals is kind of a disaster. And so like with Black Widow, which was kind of middling for me, Shang-Chi, which was good but didn't quite really like get me excited, I guess, like for like to see those characters again.
See, I didn't hate Black Widow
Uh,
as much as you did.
yeah, that's true.
And I think
And then
Shang-Chi had
Eternals,
some of the best fight choreography in the MCU movies.
that
Daredevil
is true.
still
No,
has
it
the
was.
best fight scenes in MCU in general, but
I would say that, maybe I'm being a little hard on Shang-Chi. Maybe I have to go back and see it. Like, I enjoyed watching it. I want to be very clear about that. But I just wasn't sure. Like, I was excited to see that story go anywhere again. But I could be wrong.
I'm excited to
Sometimes
see how
like that.
he comes into the full MCU. Like, what does someone like a Captain America ish person, or even like Rhodey, and well, Rhodey has the armor, Falcon, whose name I can't think of right now. If he like comes one hand to hand combat against Shang-Chi, he should lose, right? Because Shang-Chi's like the best hand to hand fighter now in the MCU, hands
Yeah.
down. So he should be able to wipe the walls with almost anyone who doesn't have superpowers. And if he has
Uh,
superpowers, he's got dragon powers now. So he's got the 10 rings, right? So he should be able to take most people down in the MCU.
yeah. And I think I guess like the mystery of where those rings come from, I do think will eventually lead them to Kang the Conqueror.
What about the fact that the 10 Rings still exists, the terrorist organization now run by his sister? Is that going to go anywhere? Or is that just like, maybe if
I don't
people
know.
like this, we'll take it further? Like, could that be a part of the big bads? Or is that
Yeah, I
the
mean,
shield of phase, whatever phase we're in? Not the shield, the Hydra.
it could be. I could see it going either way. I could see it even being the shield of the new era. So I think that one thing I will say, we're not going to talk about the Spider-Man movie in this podcast. Hopefully, we'll talk about it the next time we sit down. Just because of COVID reasons, Case hasn't been able to see it yet, and Case is a huge Spider-Man fan, so I don't want to talk about it before he sees it. We then sort of like get this little nugget called the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus, and I have to say, I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I,
Um,
I think it was, well, I want to say it's my favorite of the three that came out, like Wonder Vision, Hawkeye, the Winter Soldier. But
Winter Soldier is still tops for me.
I think so I have a soft spot for Christmas specials in general on TV
Hmm.
shows that I like. So it was like an MCU Christmas special almost, right? So because parts of it was them just getting together for Christmas and like, oh, Hawkeye's gonna be alone, but look, Hawkeye 2 shows up with a pizza, and all those things really was like, oh, cool, it's an MCU Christmas special. Better than Star Wars Christmas special. But so I going into it, I felt that I was going to be a little biased just because of the Christmas special side of it. So that's why I say it might be might be my favorite so far. But there is some things I question about it at the same time and a little confused at sometimes. Have you actually finished the series?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so I'm just going to probably do some spoilers anyhow. So this might start off with spoilers. So first off, did you think that her future stepdad, they got Jack Duquesne, in the show, played by Tony Dalton. Did you think the guy with the mustache? Did you think he was gonna be a big bad?
I did.
Yes. So I think he is playing swordsman, which is like in the Marvel comics, he's like a expert swords guy who is actually a bad person. So I'm not thinking I think he is a big bad. He was just not this episode's big bad. They're bringing him in because I think his mom, Eleanor, her mom, Eleanor, Kate Bishop's mom, is actually Madame Mask, who is another big MCU bad character. And so I think those two are technically working together, but she was trying to throw Kate off the scent by throwing Jack underneath the bus at the end. And Jack didn't know that, of course, and that's why he defended her still. Good swordsman, though. Did you like that the Black Widow, heir of Black Widow, what was it, Yana Belov was in the movie? Show? Whatever it was?
I liked it. I liked it in so much that it, I don't know, at least kind of like brought back some of the, I don't know, some of the Black Widow kind of like story arc. In that movie, I didn't think was very strong, but like knowing, like anytime, you see a movie in the MCU and maybe you didn't react to it right away and you start seeing the downstream impacts of that movie, I feel like it lends sort of like some credence to it, to that film having existed in this universe. So it was nice to see that. And it was also just interesting to see the consequences of like what Hawkeye has done, like consequences from the snap and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the one really cool thing that happened in the Hawkeye series is when they did her snap event, because she like it was right after Black Widow, right? And she's going around and on mind control people with the red spray stuff, and she goes to free one of the other Black Widows, and at that moment gets snapped when she's in the bathroom, right? And then when she comes back, it shows her being built together back up, and like the walls being repainted because 5 years have passed. I thought that was a really cool way to like, because we've seen like what happens when you look from the outside and see these people coming back. Now it was like, here's what it feels like to come back, and it's kind of neat to see like what it would feel like if you basically didn't exist for 5 years and then the whole world around you changed like in the flash, because to her it was no time passed, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a kind of cool way of showing that and giving us a perspective of that. It's pretty neat. So the big and so that's cool to have her there. And the only thing I thought was odd is at the very end, whenever Clint kind of knew that secret whistle that they used in the Black Widow at the very beginning. So the very beginning of Black Widow, she uses this whistle to say, "Hey, it's me. We're friends." And then he knew that whistle to stop her from killing him. It was very strange. And also, I don't understand why she didn't believe him when he's like, "I tried to stop her." Like, it's not like Hawkeye's a lot known as like an evil liar, really. But I feel there's some forced conflict there a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that I think they seem to also like, how do I say this? When Endgame starts, you see Hawkeye in sort of like the Ronin persona.
Right.
And, it was very clear there's some interesting things went on in that period. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of it, but even just knowing, like, you're sort of finding out now all the things that he did and all the things he got into in that time.
Right.
In those 5 years. Between the snaps. So I don't know. It was just really, there's a lot of context set up for the movie. I felt like, it was a lot of fun. I felt like, the episodes with the LARPers were really funny.
No, I love the LARPers. So there's a comic book, and it's actually kind of a delete Marvel thing happened. Well, anti-Marvel thing happened for this, but there's a comic book that Matt Fraction and I can't remember his last name, the artist, wrote together, and it was basically a lot of the things in this series were taken from the comic book. So like the Gym Suit Mafia, that's the guys that said, "Yo, bro, hey, bro," that was like all from Matt Fraction's book. Hawkeye, in the book, he basically was living in this building. He actually bought the building, and the mafia was trying to force the people out of it. No, they're actually trying to raise the rent and kick all the people. So you can be friends with the people in the building, and those people were like the people that the LARPers were. So like Grills was someone it was called Grills because he's really good at grilling, and he lived in the apartment building. So it was like Hawkeye defending this apartment building against the mafia. But there's like all the art style and stuff that in the opening credits was all taken from that book, and a lot of like the making Hawkeye just be like a normal dude. So like if I get punched in the face, it hurts, right? Not like Captain America who can just like stand back up. And no one knows who I am because I'm just Hawkeye. No one cares. That was all taken from this book. They give credit to Matt Fraction in the series, but they don't give any credit to the artist. Basically all the opening credits are mirror images of his artwork, and they give him no credit. It's crazy. It's like mind blowing. But I think they captured that really well, making Clint Barton like this. I am just a shield agent, really is all he was, right? That got mixed up somehow by like the right circumstances to become part of the Avengers. So he wasn't never, other than being good at his arrow, which in the Marvel they hint that it might be a mutant power, by the way. But anyhow, he's not supposed to be like this Captain America upstanding citizen, and they really got that like nailed down. One, starting off with the stupid musical that they had, this like fake musical where like
Oh
some
yeah, I assume that you would already have had tickets to Rogers the Musical.
you did watch the secret end credit, right? That was the whole opening singing verse, right? It was like
I did not see that.
it was after credits on the last episode. It was like a 5-minute song about the fight in New York. It was pretty funny.
Huh.
But the interesting part was no one, like, they barely ever talked about Hawkeye in that, right? In the musical. And Ant-Man was talked about because remember, in the original Avengers, Ant-Man wasn't there. But then they time traveled backwards to get the Tesseract. So is that why Ant-Man is in the musical? Because Ant-Man didn't exist in New York City during the first Avengers, but he was in the musical.
I don't even know.
But it's interesting, like oh, and like how like his hearing, he lost his hearing, right? Because all the explosions and gunfire that happens around him, he just basically can't hear anymore. And I love the scene where they're like, "Well, what happened?" He's like, "I don't know." Like, I've been in so much bad explosions and stuff, I don't know. So it was really, they did a really good job of making him almost like an everyday person. That's how they trained, right? It'd be like, you know, a SEAL 6 member, but still, you stab him, it will hurt him. You know, he's not gonna be a super powerful person. And I thought that was pretty dope. But it was interesting that he also kind of, I guess, as the Ronin, and they hinted to this, he like killed off a bunch of the mobsters, but it also seemed like he made deals with some of them. Because like the main dude of not Echo, the death lady, but the second in command of the Russian mob people, I can't think of the names right now, jumpsuit mafia guys, Kazi, seemed to know Clint whenever they captured him. And like, hey, this wasn't part of the deal. Like, Ronin wasn't supposed to be around anymore. So apparently he must have made some kind of like compromise with the mobs, being like, hey, like, you don't do everything bad and I'll stop being Ronin almost. So I really think I hope they play that out more. I don't know if they're planning any more series of Hawkeye, but I would be curious to know that.
I think they'd have to, right? Because it seems like where they left it off wasn't enough to not have a second season.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely seems that there might be, but I don't know. You know, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know if it's setting up a movie. Maybe it's gonna be a movie. Like, is Hawkeye getting his own movie in the future, or is it gonna be something different? I don't know. Also, finding out that Hawkeye's wife is actually a SHIELD agent.
Or was a SHIELD agent.
Not only that, Agent 19, which in the comic books, Agent 19 is the superhero Mockingbird, which then also is weird because Mockingbird was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is supposed to take place in the MCU. So,
unless it was retconned.
Yeah, was it retconned? Is it different dimensions? Like, is the Mockingbird from S.H.I.E.L.D. in a different dimension, or is this Mockingbird from a different dimension? Or is it just that they have Agent 19 was a reused number and they're not the same person at all? But they definitely know something about that watch, right? Because she definitely wanted the watch back. Like, there's something important about the watch because they didn't even. The whole movie starts off with them trying to get the watch, and it ends with her getting the watch. Not the movie starts with the mafia trying to get the watch for some reason, and then they kind of drop that plot, and then she gets her watch back at the very end. So there's something more important with the Agent 19 part of that watch. Like, does it open up some kind of door somewhere,
or just a watch,
or just a watch that has the Agent 19? And
it's a Rolex.
She wanted it back really, really badly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want my Rolex back too.
It's like, Clint, I don't care if you miss Christmas. Get that damn watch back.
You do the Kingpin's back.
Well, I was gonna say, I was gonna ask about the Kingpin. Is he back, or is he dead?
No, he's back.
So what? All right. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is or even what's your name? Draves.
Echo.
Echo is basically the leader of the jumpsuit mafia.
The character's non-superhero name is Maya.
Yeah, Maya, right. So she's like the leader. In the comics, Echo's has a superpower. She's deaf, but she can, when she sees someone do, it's kind of like that other guy from the Black Widow thing, but if she sees someone do some kind of
The muscle
move,
mimic.
yeah, she can kind of mimic it. And so she has that kind of power. I don't it's not as good as Swordman guy whose name I can't remember, but I'll remember later and hate myself for.
Taskmaster.
Yes, Taskmaster. But it's still she has that power, right? And they kind of show that where she's in that dojo and he does an attack and he leg sweeps and then she does the same leg sweep on the guy that attacked. Not only she's also amputee. And so, but there's like a reveal early on where like when she's training, there's her uncle shows up and it's like, oh, that looks like it could be, Kingpin. And then like the episode before the last episode, it's revealed that Eleanor Bishop, Kate's mom, was working for Kingpin to be like a security firm that kind of hides his evil doings, I guessing. And so like, you're like, oh, Kingpin's here. But then at the end of the show, basically Kate beats the crap out of Kingpin, which Kingpin, it's played by the same actor from Daredevil, so this ties Daredevil back into the MCU more. But he's also been powered up, I think, for this role because he took an arrow to the chest.
I wonder if he was just wearing a bulletproof vest.
I was wondering, but he was also like throwing her across like whole rooms when he got grabs of her. So it felt like because in the comic he's not fat, he's a super all muscle, and his looks really big. So I'm wondering if they're going that route.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like he's fat-ish, but like it's like a layer underneath him of muscle. Because he can go tail to tail with like people in comics. So like, but like, so he like got hit by a few arrows. He like was throwing her around, and then he got blown up by a super like the do not use arrow, right, and blows him up at the end. But then the whole twist is Echo learns that Kingpin knew about Ronin killing the dad or sending it up. Like it was actually Kingpin that made that happen. Which is also interesting. Does that mean Kingpin and Ronin work together? Like, did Ronin help Kingpin get in power by killing off all the other?
I don't think so. He was already in power before the snap, and Ronin only exists during the snap.
But he
I
loses
think
power
it was more.
because Daredevil takes it away from him. Because Daredevil beats the crap out of him at the end of season 3. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's some deal there. But at the end, Echo's standing there, and he's like, oh, Echo, thanks. You saved me, my daughter. I love you, blah, blah, blah. And she pulls a gun out, and it pans away, and then you hear a gunshot. Like, she's got to shoot him in the head. Now, you don't see him get shot in the head. So, like, what you're saying is you don't think he actually got shot in the head.
Well, I think he may have, but I think, like, isn't there a comic book storyline where he gets shot, but it just blinds him? It doesn't.
There is a line that does that. Correct. He becomes blind from a shot to the head somehow. I guess it only hits his eyes.
So I think that's where we're going.
Okay. Or because it could also be the line of he somehow moves faster than she expects or something, or she shoots at the ground at the last second or shoots to miss him. But yeah, so he's back. Well, the Kingpin is now in the main MCU. Not back, I guess, because he never went anywhere. So that was like a big reveal, and I really love the actor that plays him. I would say his name, but my brain doesn't know it right now. Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio. But overall, I really did I enjoyed Hawkeye.
I really did. And I didn't think I would. So, like, it was nice to be pleasantly surprised.
Maybe that was the goal. They put all these bad movies out just so you can be surprised again.
Yeah, with their sort of like middle market series, I'm sure that was exactly what they had in mind. So
I don't think they ever had any plans to make a Black Widow movie. And so they just kind of pushed it in between. Because it was also like a prequel, right? So it was almost like, let's put it here. Like it seemed that they didn't go full hog on it. Anyhow, you were saying. So what was the last big thing you want to talk about?
Well, The Matrix.
The return to the Matrix. The greatest Matrix ever. Wait, is that right?
Maybe not.
So tell me your Matrix love-hate relationship with it. Like, are you a Matrix fanboy? Are you whatever Matrix person?
Kind of in between.
All right, because I want to ever know when I'm coming from. I loved the first Matrix a lot. Right, it was like came out I was at the right age, in the right mindset, and I probably watched that movie like 9 times in the theater. And it also like changed cinema for like fight choreography and in bullet time. I air quote bullet time. And all those features. And it was like, and then the second one, I felt let down so much. I've never seen the third one. I have no idea what happens in the third one at all. So I'm like a really weird episode 1 only Matrix fan. So I was hoping going in this movie that I could like be excited about Matrix again. And I don't think I am. It fell flat, many different reasons. But I think that for those who may need a little help is what they do is they bring back the Matrix. The Matrix, Neo didn't die when he crashed into the evil machines world, and they put him back in the Matrix. And the way to make him not question that he's in the Matrix is they made it that he made the first 3 movies was a video game that he made as the video game designer in the Matrix. So then if he would start seeing things like he does in the movie, he would question his sanity versus thinking that he was in a virtual reality. And so that's kind of how they brought him back. I did like some of the game designer meetings. So the whole thing starts off that he's the designer, and then there's his partner is like the money man, and he's Agent Smith. And so they already have that like relationship of like, oh, we hate each other, but we don't know why we hate each other. But else we're friends. And so there's a point where they're like, so we're being they basically, the company that published the Matrix trilogy is going to make a 4th one with or without us. So you need to make the 4th one, so at least you have control of it. And it felt like, was that like a complete dig to Warner Brothers?
I mean, they even mentioned Warner Brothers by name.
I know. It's like, we don't want to do this, but they're making us, so we're going to do this. And then they spent like that, they had those brainstorm sessions where like the only person that knew anything about the Matrix, the creator of the Matrix, which was, Neo, sat there quietly where everyone else in the meeting kept on like saying, oh, the Matrix was this, the Matrix should be this, it was probably the Wachowski, actually there's only one Wachowski, wasn't both of them, was probably that same thing. Like she's in meetings with the Warner Brothers going, like, you guys keep on telling me what the Matrix is that I created. Like, stop it. Like, I'm the one who created it. I know what the meaning of everything was. Because they're like, oh, it's all about this. It was all about bullet time. It's all about the difference between reality and illusion. Wait, is that right? It's all about the cat. So I had a little bit of fun there. But then, I don't know, like, they brought back Morpheus, kind of. Well, the way the silly event is he questions his reality, so he makes a module that reruns itself over and over again to train a new Morpheus that helps him escape. But he's still like feels insane because of his psychiatrist, who is the actual architect of the new Matrix. The analyst, by the way. There is some fun little calls to the actual industry that I'm part of that I'm like, oh yeah, the analyst. That would make sense.
I think a lot, like they spoof the tech industry a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and anybody who's ever been in a bunch of tech meetings, you would know there's usually a lot of BS that gets thrown around, and I feel like they did a really good job of capturing the frustration of that can incite.
Yes, totally. So yeah, and I think so. There's like some good things in it, but then they went and he finally was they're trying to make him escape, and the first big combat scene was like Neo versus. I didn't know who they were. They were all like homeless looking people, like unshaven and stuff. But apparently that was the French people from the second Matrix, which I did not know that. Anyhow, so they have this fight scene, and the fight scene seems so not Matrix. It was like shaky cam and jumping around, and even like the slow-mo stuff was like kind of like the bullet time stuff was like, and the big new thing that Neo had was like a force push was his new power. And it kind of, and I was listening to someone else talking about this, and they're like, I was like, I bet you the problem was Reeves didn't have enough time because he was making all the other movies he's been in. The what's that movie that's popular right now? Shoots people in the head a lot.
Like John Wick?
John Wick movies that he didn't have time to spend the 8 months choreographing fight scenes. So instead of that, they're just like, well, we'll just give you this push power. And so every time you fight, then all you have to do is put your hands out and you push people away. And it was like, I'm like, but the whole thing was these fight scenes. Like, it was so, like, it felt so uninspired. Is this the word I would use? Like, when you go from, like, Shang-Chi, their fight scenes felt more Matrix than the Matrix fight scenes felt. And maybe they're trying something new. It just felt off to me. And then their big new thing was like, we don't have agents anymore. We have bots. Now everybody's a bot. So now it's a fucking zombie movie. And then guess what? He force pushed all of his zombies as he ran away in the back of a motorcycle. But the power of love makes us more powerful. Anyhow, so how do you like The Matrix?
I didn't. I think that this is seemingly it felt like a money grab. For some reason that there are weird like flashbacks to the original Matrix.
Oh right.
That are like,
but they're played by different actors. Well, yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't thrilled. I really think that I didn't need this movie. The way it was done, I think it started out really interesting.
No, I thought they had something going there with the whole like, oh, he's mentally he feels like he's mentally ill because and he made this video game. Like that, all that stuff is like, the insanely intelligent person and creative person suffers for the art almost, right? And I'm like, oh, cool. What are they gonna do with this? But then it kind of just like went back to the almost the basics. It was weird.
Um, I found it very hard to stay engaged.
Saying what?
Um, to stay engaged with the movie, I really, really was
Suffered.
struggling. Yeah, it felt like it kind of felt like if I had known what that movie was, and you gave me the choice of doing work or going to see The Matrix, I would actually choose work just because I felt like The Matrix. It was kind of the same thing. It felt like work to go and see this. It was cool to revisit those characters again. It was cool to see all of these things, but I really just felt like uh you know it it
It
didn't do anything with the series that I thought was really interesting enough to warrant a fourth film.
it also just felt. I want to say the word I want to use is cheap. I don't know. Everything this felt almost felt and if they would have done this and made it true, it almost felt like a video game quality cutscenes almost some of the times where it was just like I said, the fight scenes were bad. It seemed like even like the costuming wasn't as good as it was in the original ones. And there's this like I don't know what's happening. What? Why?
Can't say I noticed that the costume part or like the. I think that I mean in terms of polish, cinematic polish, I think it's there for the movie. Maybe except for that one weird shaky cam fight scene that they
All
had.
of them were. Then they had the bots fight scene at the end where it's like, we'll freeze everybody for a second. That's kind of neat. And then it's just drive a fucking motorcycle down the road. And then it did the whole signs thing where people were jumping off the top of buildings and landing on people. It was just. Were the bots always bots in the Matrix now? Or are they humans that they didn't replace with bots when they need bots there?
I don't know.
Because that means they're killing
Uh,
their batteries. Like, wouldn't that be wasteful? Like, have like super powerful agents chase them. Why are you wasting your batteries by killing off every human in the Matrix? Surprisingly, though, I thought Neil Patrick Harris did really well in his role.
oh yeah, he is. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because he's kind of the highlight of the movie.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed like the first time you saw basically it was like I'm moving faster than everyone else bullet time, right? So everything else is frozen. He's walking around talking, right? It was really good. I enjoyed that scene and the scene at the end. It felt good. I felt he was a good added addition, but the rest of the movie just let it down. Like he definitely brought his A game, and I thought he did really well. And the character was cool, just like you said,
Yeah.
didn't add anything to the lore. It added things to the lore for me from like, oh, the architect failed. Here's this analyst, like from like a in the industry world, right, is coming in to fix the problem, and stuff like that, and even like oh, Trinity, we're gonna give you a family because if you have a family, you won't want to leave the Matrix. So you have this family, even though you maybe never wanted a family, but now you have this family, so that you and Neo can't come back together. It was kind of like some little interesting, like there's a lot of interesting tidbits. It just didn't tie together. Like, and I
Yeah, for
think
sure.
like I was talking to someone else about it, and then they mentioned this too. And I think this maybe goes back to my whole like the reason that feels the fight scenes weren't that good is one, we only talked about one fight scene. There was more fight scenes in there. We just don't remember them. But where every other Matrix, there's always like a fight scene that you can point to. It's like, oh hey, do
Yeah.
you remember that in the dojo? That was really freaking cool. Or like, oh, remember the highway chase, right? Where they're like jumping between the cars and stuff, and the ghosts are going through the other car and sitting in the back seat. Where this one's like, I don't remember the fight scenes other than that first one because it was bad, but there was more after that I just don't remember. It was just I don't know. In the ending with all the bots, it just felt like I was playing Left 4 Dead. It's like
You
oh
know, there are movies that are they're good, but they're missing something. I feel like The Matrix was missing multiple things
no,
to
I agree.
really, really get it. And unfortunately, instead of getting us more closer to Matrix One, I think they got us a little bit closer to Matrix Two and Three, which
Or
it definitely felt like more of a continuation of Matrix Two and Three than it did of Matrix One. And I just don't mean from a plot standpoint. I mean that from a quality standpoint.
yeah,
And unfortunately, I would say this, like in today's world, I mean, if you think about when the original Matrix came out, uh, and you think about today, your entertainment options back then were way more limited,
mhm,
relative to today. You didn't have streaming, you didn't have all this other stuff. You didn't have any sort of like real, like meaningful, like kind of like on demand, at least the way we have it today. Uh, no YouTube. None of that stuff. I just think that for this to this for this movie to really have like knocked it out of the park, quote unquote, I think it would have had to have been like somewhere approaching the first Matrix movie in terms of quality, given other entertain like how many options people have to entertain themselves. I'd honestly just say you could probably just skip this movie entirely.
No, yeah, unless you're like a insanely hardcore fanboy of the Matrix world. Because there are people out there that love all three movies, right? But
I mean, sure. I mean, like, look, I've seen all three movies. I've seen the
yeah, but you might
Animatrix.
not love them all. I need to watch the Matrix though.
I don't love them all. I just think that one is good, two and
One is
three
great.
not.
Change the
I mean,
industry.
yeah, I would say that look, I
One
guess
one
one thing,
change the industry. That's fine. We can move on.
yeah, I think that I also do feel some sympathy in that it is very hard. Like once you've had a franchise that's groundbreaking, everybody's gonna want the next iteration of that trilogy to be just as groundbreaking,
Right,
and
totally. Star Wars, for example.
that's yeah, and I just think that that's really hard.
No,
And so
yeah, I'm not blaming anyone. It was just, I think it was, I wasn't even looking for the like Matrix 1 level. I was just looking for something new, I think. And then I thought it started off going something new with the whole like video game design thing, and then just returned back to same old, same old. Where same old has been copied so much since the first Matrix, right? The whole
yeah,
not just the bullet time stuff and the choreography, the fighting and stuff like that. The subplots and all that stuff you have seen for 21 years because Matrix was so groundbreaking. You had copycats, or maybe not homages, whatever you want to call them, right? Not copycats, but people taking a little like, hey, I'll have the fight parts. I'm gonna bring this in this movie, or oh, that idea of are you in a virtual reality? Here's some movies for that. Like, there's so many came afterwards that I was hoping they would do something to change a little bit. But it felt like, and this is what you said. Even you were like at the beginning, you were like, oh, this could be interesting. But then just switch right back into the already worn out trail we've blazed for 3 movies.
yeah, and I really don't know if there's that much more to say here.
No, yeah, we
I
can.
think
I do have one more thing to
I
say.
just yeah, go ahead.
Nothing about the Matrix, though.
No, okay. Well, let's wrap up the Matrix. Now, what would you like to say,
All
Case?
right. There is not an announced Hawkeye series 2. There is an
Not yet.
Echo series coming out.
Ooh,
So that's where if Kingpin and Echo could be seen, and some of the other characters from the Hawkeye series could fall into. Right now, the only thing they have announced is Maya Lopez's character will be there.
yeah. So we covered a lot of ground today,
I have one more
and if
thing to
you'd
say
like to
though.
talk, go ahead.
I forgot to mention this back in the Hawkeye thing. I also think the scene with Kate Bishop and Black Widow's sister when she was eating the macaroni and cheese and they were talking was awesome, and I want to see them have their own series. Kate Bishop and Black Widow.
I think it'd be kind of cool.
Anyhow, if you want to see that series, you can reach out to us at.
You can reach out to us on Instagram at No Life Kings. You can tweet us at @NLK_podcast, and you can email us at podcast@nolifekings.com. We are still working on getting all those things to be the same. I guess like the Instagram handle and the Twitter handle. We will do that.
We will do that in 16 years from now.
Correct. As Case would say, cheers.
And toodaloo, toodles. The Poppy was the
Hey, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. When you say Poppy, what do you
I don't know, like